Welcome to the League of Liberty. I am your host for this week. My name is Chris Spangle, and I am the host of We Are Libertarians. Also in the league is Marc Clair of the Lions of Liberty. Marc, how are you?
Why, howdy. I'm doing fantastic, Chris.
It's so nice to hear
What's the
you.
word?
It's nice to see you here in the Liberty Cave.
Isn't it?
I know.
We actually do record this all huddled together in a small cave.
Yeah.
That's the inside secret.
Don't touch me there.
Currently hanging upside down is Rodger Paxton of the LAVAFlow, my favorite amateur volcano podcast. Rodger, how are you doing?
What's amateur about my volcano podcast? Come on, Chris.
First time someone mentioned checking out the LAVAFlow, I'm like, I'm into geology a little bit. I just don't know if I needed to listen to a whole show about
Right.
lava. All right, I'll listen. Wow, this is not what I thought.
So, in this episode, Johnny Adams is out on a secret Liberty Force mission, exploring several different planets, places where we can colonize and bring true liberty. So Johnny will be back. He will bring us many things that he's been experimenting on, women, drugs, and he will tell us all about it.
That may be actually true right now. I hope it is, for Johnny's sake.
Oh, me
Absolutely.
too. So we haven't really talked about what we're going to talk about. We just kind of said, hey, what are we going to do? But as you know, this podcast is the four podcasts here, the LAVAFlow, the Johnny Rocket Launchpad, the Lions of Liberty, and We Are Libertarians. Four podcasters who all focus on libertarianism, have similar sensibilities and similar work ethics and similar audiences, and we decided that we'd get together and promote each other, and we now have a monthly podcast for our subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing to this podcast. We appreciate it so much, and you guys are the grease, you're the oil in our engines, and I wish I could have thought of a more romantic way to caress verbally our audience. But
well, speaking of Chris, the big news with We Are Libertarians is you guys broke $1,000 a month, right?
Yeah. So
That's
since
awesome,
last
man.
month, our donors.
I'm literally going to applaud.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is fantastic. That is fantastic.
It is. It's I think we're almost up to $1,100. It is as you know, we've gone through some changes, and people, instead of fleeing as I worried, donated more, and it's just really humbling to see that. And yeah, we put the Patreon up, and Rodger forever was like, get on Patreon and put up rewards. And when I finally did it, man, I was just blown away by how quickly people fell in there and wanted our bonus content. So it's really awesome, and this is one of the ways that we want to thank people for subscribing and supporting independent media like our shows.
Yeah, and I'm actually $9 away from hitting $250 per episode, so that's going to mean that I've got to not only double my work, but it also doubles my pay, because I'm going to go from 2 episodes a month to 4 episodes a month, which is really going to be nice for me. So I'll be up there at $1,000 an episode too.
Excellent.
I'm
sorry,
money? Wait a
$1,000 a month. Yeah, you got to send more money, of course. You want the good content, right?
I'm gonna do a similar thing. I'm gonna start doing it by the episode, and then I'm just gonna put out a 5-minute episode every day.
Well, it's funny that the reason I do that by episode is, again, I owe this to Chris, because I used to be a monthly donor to We Are Libertarians, and some months we'd be lucky to get an episode, maybe 2, and some months we'd get 4 or 5. So when I was doing mine, I thought, well, I'm going to do mine per episode, so that I've got incentive to make sure that I get that content out there. So
more for you to make sure you make yourself do the show.
Yeah, it's definitely an incentive for me. Because that way, if I don't do an episode, I don't get paid, and you guys don't have to pay me. It works out great.
Yeah, see, I switched it to monthly because I thought that when I talked to people were worried that they were going to, get overrun, and I would do 15 episodes a week, and they'd pay. Patreon has limits, so I support Rodger, but I've capped out at I think $5 a month maybe. And but I don't think I didn't want to take that extra marketing step to assuage people's fears. So I switched it to per month, and I think that really is part of our benefit. So I hear you, but it's just easier for people to understand. They know they can budget that out, and it's just kind of less work for them.
Yep.
Well, that's what's interesting about all our bonus stuff is we're all doing things a little bit differently because there's no playbook here. We're all kind of doing things in ways that have made sense to us as we go. And I think we can all learn from each other's results and mistakes or whatever along the way. And that's, it's one of the great benefits of us all working together on this stuff is we can all, we're writing the playbook. This playbook doesn't exist. It's only being created by all the, not just the Liberty podcasters, but all the podcasters out there in the last few years. It's all being created as we go. And there's no right or wrong answer. We're just all kind of learning what works best, learning what our specific audience is like more and less and that kind of thing, because our audiences aren't necessarily, even though there's a ton of overlap, aren't exactly the same. And, we just kind of go with the flow. And I think we all let our listeners sort of guide us as we go in many ways, even though I think we all have a solid vision of what we want. But, at the end of the day, it's the audience response that's going to guide that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I say that, but frankly, I've had some feedback from some listeners that is just really not very good feedback. Now, the vast majority of it is great feedback, great information.
On your show or this show?
No, on my show. So, so some of the feedback I get, I have to be very careful about, I still have to be careful about making sure that this is my show and doing it the way that, I feel comfortable with. So, you have to take some feedback with a grain of salt. But yeah, most of what I get is extremely great.
Yeah. And go ahead, Mark.
No, I was just saying, there's definitely a line there. Like, you can't just listen to everybody who says anything because then you're going to be pulling in 1,000 different directions. Everybody has their idea of what you should be doing. I think it's just more of less of a this listener said this, so I do it thing, and more of just a feel and a general vibe you get from the direction things are going, and I say like the overall amount of feedback you get from the listeners, as opposed to one guy who doesn't like the way you put something together, or thinks that we should have it. One guy actually told John Odermatt that he should make Felony Friday a more NPR-like show. I'm like, no, that's the whole fucking point. That whole reason we're here is because everyone is sick of that shit. Everyone is sick of the same old, produced like, oh, let's hear some wind chimes as we slowly tell you about the topics of the day. Like, no, that's boring. Maybe some people like it, and they can go listen to the NPR podcast. But they don't have a libertarian one, I don't think. But
yeah, that's part of what I wanted. It's conversational storytelling. If you go and listen to our cost episodes, for instance, or just sit down and listen to us having a conversation on We're Libertarians, you're still getting a story, and you are following the arc of my life on We're Libertarians and some of the lives of other people, and you're invested in the people, and so there is that storytelling element, but it is more conversational. It's not pre-produced, and I think for the four of us, we're starting from like, I love Tom Woods, but Tom Woods had a pedigree and a platform, and it was, it's part of what, and he does a great podcast, and that's, but when he started his podcast, he already kind of had a platform to pre-promote. Love Jason Stapleton, but Jason was rich.
Well, sure. If I had $200,000 to drop into a podcast, I could probably do as well as Jason Stapleton.
And to be clear, Jason made himself rich. It's not like he was, inherited, all the money. But, we're not doing as well as him, I guess. And that's just a factual statement in terms of financially.
Exactly right.
Yeah, these are the ways you build a podcast. There are three, and Chris just mentioned two of them. You either start out with a name, like Tom Woods was Tom Woods well before the Tom Woods Show, or you start out with money, like Jason did, that you can put into it and really pump up, and not take anything away from him. He's a very talented speaker and very good at what he does. Or you grit and grind away and slowly work your tail off and try to put out the best product you can and build that audience and build that loyalty, and you just grind away and you don't give up when it gets frustrating, because it will always get frustrating. And I think that's what ends up separating the wheat from the chaff. Which one's good in the wheat and the chaff, by the way? I use that phrase. I don't think I've ever known which is the good one. The wheat, I guess, right?
The wheat,
chaff
right.
doesn't sound delicious at all.
Yeah.
So the wheat is who sticks with it and doesn't give up and doesn't get dragged down by, I had to spend 4 hours editing this week. Well, you can be annoyed by it, but also realize what you're getting out of that and know that that's just part of it. And if you don't get that joy out of it, maybe it is time to wind down. But I think that's what a lot of people end up doing, because there's no immediate gratification with podcasts. Even Tom and Jason had to build up their shows over a long period of time, even with their advantages. So imagine some schmucks like us trying to do it.
Yeah. For We Are Libertarians, and I've always been a person who loves to hear feedback and get feedback from the audience, and I learned that from Marc Cuban. Marc Cuban became rich just based on surveys, not just surveys, but surveying his audience and saying, hey, what do you want? What would you change? What would you do differently? And I think it's one of those deals where there's the Steve Jobs version of things, right? Where they don't know what they want yet, so do what you want to do. But then there's also the PC version where, hey, feedback, build a product around what people want. And there's a happy medium, and I think that's something that I'm working on. You know, we built a show around the characters of We're Libertarians, and it's as much of a comedy podcast as anything. And I hear that
depends on your definition of the word comedy.
Sure,
that's a different story.
But see, that's the exact thing, is that while it has been a differentiator in the space for We're Libertarians, it's also turned some people off. And so where's that balance between doing something that is different and not something you'd normally hear on a political show versus what people expect from a libertarian show? I mean, realistically, a lot of people want just the information, and they don't mind the occasional joke. And so that's something that I've had to kind of look at and say, okay, well, how much of... Because there are some shows, there are some episodes where, like, I remember about 3 months ago, I was just like, we're going to do an episode for you, but we do not feel like talking about politics. And it was just an hour of BSing. You know, and there's a segment of our audience that really liked that episode, but there's, in terms of mass audience, they don't want to hear that. They want information. They want to sound smarter for their friends. And so I've had to really kind of take a look at what we're doing, and now that, you know, we have cast changes and things, now's a good time to kind of start interjecting more stories, but I'm nervous because I'm afraid I'm going to lose audience, because that differentiator was the horsing around. And if I do less of that, do I lose audience? Will I make up? So it is, but it's over the course of 6 years, we've evolved as a show, and I've evolved as a person, and it's going to continue to evolve, and all you can do is just do the best that you can at that point, put as much effort as you can into it, and hope that people like what you do. And I think all of us have been rewarded with that, and have found our people, but sometimes it is. I don't know about you guys. I'd be interested in hearing, because I am at a moment where it's like, all right, I want to change this, and I want to try this, and I want to do this, but I'm really nervous that my audience isn't going to stick with me. Right on the verge of, like, becoming a big podcast.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the cast changes. Do you want to go into that? Because, you know, not everybody listening to this may know what's been going on.
Yeah, we came here for the dirt.
Yeah,
I kid.
Well, I'll touch on what we.
Anybody that listens to your show has a general idea of what's going on. Although I guess it's possible not everyone here in the league does.
Sure,
as long as most people who listen to my show probably have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, as long as we stay positive,
Roger. There's zero overlap, right?
Long story short, I have.
Oh, it's funny that you mentioned that. While Chris is telling his story, I'm going to pull up my latest iTunes review.
Oh yeah.
I've heard this one.
Go ahead, Chris. Tell your story.
Yeah, so we have a rotating cast of about 20 people, and I do that because I don't know everything like Rodger, and I don't pretend to be an expert like Rodger, and I like to learn from other people instead of just telling people what I know like Rodger. And so I have a rotating cast, and we really started out the podcast as kind of like Meet the Press of a bunch of, you know, all the different strains of the libertarian movement. And over time, just people's commitments change, and you kind of narrow it down, and some people are more committed than others. And, you know, for about 200 episodes, it really became the Chris and Greg show. And, you know, it was like Howard and Robin, Bob and Tom, or, you know, Ed and Johnny and Ed, I guess.
I mean, when I first had you guys on my show, I invited both of you because I thought it was the two of you's show. I didn't realize the whole dear leader dynamic.
Yeah. Well, it's like one of those things where it is odd. Like, if I quit, there is no more podcast. If he quits, there's a podcast, because all the stuff's at my house and I started it. And there, you know, for a lot of people, there isn't that distinction, but Greg, for his part, has always been incredibly gracious, and, you know, has always, like, this is your thing, I'm here to support you, I'll be a part of it as long as you want me to be a part of it, or as long as I want to be a part of it. There's no expectation. I mean, so he's always been very good to me in that way, and, because it's really kind of like I'm the host and I do all the back end work for it, and everybody else just kind of shows up to fool around for a couple hours on a Thursday night and so Greg was with us for about 200 episodes, and for about 10 episodes we had Kat, and the two of them ended up dating, and that's great. I'm happy for them. I found out when they made it Facebook official instead of having a private conversation. I got pissed. I
literally thought that was another We Are Libertarians gag.
I did too, until they said it was real, and I was just like, okay. It just kind of caught me off guard, and then I just was like, we have a show tomorrow night. I don't want to talk about this on the show. Let's talk in a couple weeks after I've calmed down. Because here's the thing about me, okay? I get pissed, and I withdraw because I don't want to say something I'll regret, and sometimes that on the other side can feel harsh. And I think maybe on his side it felt like I was trying to fire him, but that was not the case. He ended up on the Tuesday before a show posting his resignation from the show and moving on. And he and I haven't talked. We've not really talked about that. I wish there had been more conversations. I would have been open to some of that, but it's been a really tough 2 weeks, to be honest. And because it is two best friends who are having an issue, and I'm sure it's tough on his end and it's tough on my end, and over time I'm sure that it will get patched up, and it's just kind of where it's at. But it's tough when it's on the show and people are invested. I mean, it's a credit to what we have built together in that people are invested in what's going on and are interested in our lives. But I also think there's a balance between what do I owe the audience in terms of explanation of where I'm at, and making sure that I respect Greg and I respect Kat and I respect my feelings and I respect my audience. And so I tried on episode 235 to do that walk, and and on the show we're not going to talk about it moving forward because it's a sensitive thing, and like I don't want to hurt them, and I'm sure I have, and they've hurt me, and it's just like it's a sucky situation, but it is something that I'm handling with as much grace as I can, and to his credit, Greg is too. And when I posted the announcement, left just a very sweet note on it, and I don't know. I mean, for his part, I'm speculating. I mean, maybe it was just, he was ready to move on, and I work for a nationally syndicated radio show called the Bob and Tom Show, and Bob retired about 2 years ago, and everybody wrote the show off saying that the show was going to die, the show's not going to be the same. At the same time, another cast member of the four left, and it was a weird transitional phase for a few months, and then the cast got settled, and the Bob and Tom Show is as funny as it has ever been, but there was kind of that weird, awkward period where you're trying to figure out how to do the show again, and I'm fortunate that I worked there during that period because I have that kind of frame of reference in this, and I think for me, all I can do is just for somebody who has treated me very well and has helped me build my dream, I owe Greg nothing but praise, and he, and hopefully he will always do the same, because I'll never publicly. I mean, I certainly have my feelings about some of it, and I'm over a lot of that, to be honest. But the guy just was here week in, week out, and is such a smart guy, and is somebody that the audience really started to like, and I'm fortunate.
Both of those things are debatable. Just saying.
Right. Well, there are people that are obviously like Rodger. Rodger was never a Greg fan, and Greg.
My biggest issue with Greg was that, I mean, was he a smart guy? Sure. Did he understand, foreign policy pretty well? Sure. He made a lot of mistakes in that regard that most people didn't pick up, but that's beside the point. My issue with Greg was that he brought down I guess the caliber of the show from a standpoint where we're getting good information out there to the standpoint where it was crass in a lot of ways.
Hold on, guys. I got a special call coming in from Johnny Adams on the other line.
All right.
You continue, Rodger. I'm gonna take this call.
All right.
Well, let me.
The crassness, the meme wars, that was my biggest issue with We Are Libertarians, is it turned from a podcast that, gave really good information, had a little bit of, comedy here and there, which is not really my thing, but I understand that there are people out there who enjoy that, to a meme empire, a shit posting empire. And that was not my favorite period of We Are Libertarians, frankly.
Well, and let me defend him because I was a lot of that decision too, and I can talk about it here because I want to get this off my chest. And our mutual friend Seth basically posted something similar, but in a much.
Sorry, guys. Johnny is safe. He just had to check in real quick to make sure. He actually just met up with another. Liberty person. He's talking to Jason Stapleton right now. So he wanted to let me know that's why he's not here.
He's leaving.
That's his secret mission.
Yeah, his secret mission that's no longer secret. So he's promoting the Liberty Force comic on the Jason Stapleton show. So
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm going to stick up for Greg and say that yes, Greg and I pushed each other and to points where we often said it on the show, and privately, is this out of the bounds of good taste? And then the other would say,
just to be clear, it absolutely was in a lot of ways.
And
just so you guys know.
But that's part of why we would do it. I'm very aware of where social norms are, and I'm very aware
for every person's bad taste that turns them off. Someone else is like, oh, this is kind of
exactly.
Everyone's gonna have a different perspective on these things. So it's all about finding what works for you, not as opposed to what works for Rodger or me or whoever.
And I will
sure, and I'm definitely not saying that We Are Libertarians should mold to what I expect it to be. That's why I created my podcast.
Well, right.
But that is still my perspective from it. That was my my least favorite period. So I'm very anxious and very curious to see how the show's going to evolve going forward. I mean, you, Chris, that I love Harry to death, for example. I mean, he's one of my favorite people in Indiana. I can't wait to get him to New Hampshire. He and his family, because he and his wife are both just amazing.
He's literally all I've got. He's literally all I've got left, and you're going to try and steal him from me?
Well, no, I mean, he's already said he signed the pledge long ago. He's already planning to move up here, and he probably would have been up here by now had it not been for Gunther. I mean, she had to go off and screw everything up. But
a woman ruined something weird that never happened.
Well, his baby, but anyway.
Oh, okay.
Well, so
still, the point stands.
If
I'm cruel, the point stands.
Yeah, no kidding. But he's already going to be coming up this way. It's just going to be a little more delayed. But when he gets up here, he'll definitely be doing a podcast for Pax Libertas. I can guarantee you that.
You son of a bitch.
Rodger's already poaching your talent in the future. Look at that.
Look, let's be honest. Harry is brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant.
No, the audience has loved
it. A great. I know he's been on before, but a great regular addition.
Yeah, the audience. Harry and I have both been surprised, but Harry more than I, at how loved he is by our audience, and he's just. I said to him last night, I said, there's a whole segment of our audience that are tech nerds and My Little Pony people and disc gamers, and I don't get those. I don't get those people, and I need to just get out of your way and let you talk to them because they love you, and we don't get each other, and they get you, and so go for it. And our Discord is blowing up. It's been great, but. Yeah,
that's why Harry and I get along so well, because we are very similar in those kind of the tech geek, the gaming, that sort of area.
Right.
And that's why he and I get along so great. When I met him at PorkFest, not this year but last year, I mean, we just instantly clicked. It was like he was brother from another mother kind of thing. So it was great.
Yeah. So if you guys will indulge me, I'd like to talk about this because this is something that I would like to have a little therapy session for the next 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Before you do, I wanted to read the iTunes review I got last week. it says 100% libertarian. If you want an unwavering opinion from a libertarian perspective on current events, and this is a podcast for you, a complete 180 degrees from those ding-dongs, and we are libertarians.
Which we revel in being ding-dongs.
But funnily enough, I was just looking at my reviews. I got another one in yesterday. Must subscribe if you question the government. No punches pulled, and the only bias is towards individual liberty. Thoughtful and composed information presented on current events is not just in line with the mass media. And he's better than Tom Woods. Whoa!
Wow, that's a good one.
That came from Russ. Thank you, Russ.
2 fake reviews.
Yeah, I've been padding my reviews. That's why I've got so many.
So over the last, I want to get this off my chest because I feel like I'm at a moment of confession, and I know that I don't know about Marc, but I know Rodger.
Rodger and I are your priests.
Yeah, and I am a Christian, and I know that Rodger's not.
I'm going to be getting out of our Facebook chat. By the way, I can't be your priest anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
So there have been plenty of times over the last year and a half where I've tried to push the character comedy stuff as a way to attract audience, and Greg would look at me and go, like, I don't think people really want that. I think they want the nerdy stuff, because that's what I'm hearing. So I don't think it's fair to blame Greg for that stuff at all. It was more me pushing that, and I think for me, the last 4 years, I've done the show 6 years almost, and I've been in the middle of a divorce for 4 years, and anybody who's been through a divorce knows that you don't just get divorced and it gets better in a month. You go through a whole personal transformational type thing, and listeners have been a part of that journey, and I will say that having this moment where I didn't know if I was going to be able to do the show 2 weeks ago, and this is something that I planned to do for the rest of my life, and I felt that was threatened, and that was a pretty scary thing, and a lot of introspection and a lot of thinking and a lot of talking to a lot of people. I'm the type of person who verbally processes and tries to think things through and figure where things are at, and I do a lot of reflection, and I think that I really kind of pegged it yesterday or today. Something happened in me when Trump won, and there was this.
You became a cuck?
I became an anti-cuck.
I kid.
I'm somebody that when I played football in 7th grade, I was on the C team alone because they were afraid to put me in because I lacked the killer instinct, the coach said. I've always been a very sweet and loving person, and trying to be a hard ass is not something that I'm good at. And I really feel like this last year, I don't feel like I'm the only man that has gone through this, but I really feel like over the last year, I have taken on a different piece of my personality, and upon reflection, I'm not crazy about it. And yes, the show has always been crass, and it has always been offensive, and sometimes I think it's been offensive for offensive sake, and that's not necessarily good content, and I don't think that that's good for discourse. And you know, the memes are funny, and they are memes. Some of them are funny, but some of them are not, and some of it is just. I think
some of it just freaks you out, like that James Neese hentai shit.
Well, yeah, James is a whole different thing, and so I really just have been thinking a lot about the last year, and like this broke a fever in me, I guess is the way to put it. And when you really look at Trump, you look at what's going on in society, there's a lot of false masculinity, and the degeneracy of Trump. And when you listen to that Jeff Flake speech yesterday, just talking about like what are principles, what are values, what are morals, what are ethics, and yes, you can sit there and go, Jeff Flake and politicians are no beacon of morals, but when even
that was going to be my response to
but
that, yeah.
But my point is that when a Jeff Flake is the moral beacon in our society, how far have we gone in society, and what have I contributed to it? And
I don't see this guy as a moral beacon of jack shit. This guy is I think he's just another fraud who knew he wasn't going to win an election and wants to go out scoring points with certain segments of the population and thinks that he's being some kind of bold. Like the guy's an establishment guy who's gone along with almost every bad thing you can imagine, and now he's supposed to be some beacon of virtue.
Sure.
Sorry, I don't buy it for 1 second. I'm not really disagreeing with you as much as I am the other people who I've seen like worshiping this dude who from people who've never heard of the guy just because he said some things about Trump.
Exactly. They're anti-Trump to be anti-Trump, but I feel like men in particular and myself on some level have abandoned what it means to be a good person for the sake of just feeling good. And I think that... sorry about that. I think that...
Is that Johnny calling you too?
No, that's...
First rule of podcasting, always make sure that your stuff is turned on silent.
I can't when I have... never mind, I was going to make a joke, but it betrays what I'm about to say. I think that what I have done over the last couple of weeks has been more introspective as to what we are putting out into the world and what we are contributing to the world. And it stems from the amount of people that have reached out to me and said, I love what you're doing. You're an inspiration to me. I thank you for We Are Libertarians. I look up to you. Like, those are things I never expected to hear from an audience. And I guess it's weird when you sit there and try to build something where you build influence and then you never expect to get influence, but so is being the child of an alcoholic. Like, you don't expect good things to happen to you. So
well, to be clear, I never expected anybody to say they looked up to you either. So.
Right. So I look at that and I go, oh, okay, well, there are people like actually listening to what I have to say and watching how I behave and watched how I've handled the entire situation with Greg and respect that. Some people think it was unnecessary, but there's nobody who said like you did. I mean, there were people who had their opinions, but by and large, Greg and I treated each other with grace and respect. Well, what
are you supposed to do? He quit the show ultimately.
Right.
You didn't kick him out.
Exactly.
And I agree with what you said earlier that you don't. Libertarians could probably take this advice in some other areas, actually, but you never want to snap to the first thing in your mind. And when something hurtful or happens, especially from a friend, the first thoughts in your mind are going to be like the worst things you could say. Or you want to let time play out a little bit at least before really addressing things often, especially if it's something super personal, because the initial reactions are just not going to be good for anybody.
And so many times over the last year, I've indulged that. And I've been petty, and I've pretended to be Donald Trump, and frankly, I'm embarrassed by it, and I'm embarrassed by a lot of the content over the last year. I wouldn't have done anything differently because it's part of me as a broadcaster and as a person, growing and doing things differently. But I think moving forward, I really feel like. And it's nerve-wracking to say this because there's a certain portion of our audience that wants the shitlording. But I think when you take a look at what is my philosophy, okay? Ultimately, my philosophy is that human beings are deserving of love and respect, and that the rules that govern interpersonal relationships between two individuals work best at every level of relationships, be it one person or hundreds of people. And I have a relationship with my audience, and I try to treat them with love, respect, openness, honesty, authenticity, vulnerability. These are things that I think are very important in a libertarian society. You cannot have a libertarian society without personal growth and trying to be the best person that you can be and the most successful person you can be. And there's many things that go into that, and I don't think that I've been a good model of that. And I think that that's something that I've got to change moving forward, and in the way that I approach things and the way that I handle things. And I think it's going to cost me audience, and I think it's going to cost me money. But at the end of the day, I need to be able to look in the mirror and say, did you go to bed? At the end of the day, I need to lay my head on the pillow and go, did you treat everybody with the level of love and respect that you'd like to be treated with? And I think that if the answer is no, you go and fix that. And, the petty bullshit of the Trump era, I just have to retire from that. And I think that's what people like Jeff Flake are saying, and Bob Corker. I'm retiring from that. And I think there are a lot of men who are not acting like men. They're acting like Donald Trump, who is a spineless, degenerate coward. And he is bad for your mental health, and he's bad for my mental health. And treating people the way that Donald Trump treats people is the wrong way to live. And I think that I've been remiss in fully articulating what I believe as a human being and the respect that everybody is deserving of. Like when you approach things from the point of humanity, I can sit there and talk to you about North Koreans and say, here's why North Koreans are human beings and therefore we should not nuclear bomb them. Here's why economic reform is good, because these people will make more money, and here's what they will like. Everybody's just trying to get by, man. Everybody's just trying to live their life and build their, and like all this pettiness is just, it's wearing me out. And I think it's just a moment of confession for me to say I'm sorry that I've put that kind of shit out there. And I don't think there's going to be a lot more of those Aunt Donna moments on my show. And there's going to be a lot more information. And it's not because the influence of Greg has been removed. It's because the removal of Greg from my life, who has been my brother for so long, has sent me into an introspective moment and made me really kind of think about, like, am I still going to say exactly what I think? Absolutely. Am I going to try and craft content that offends people on purpose? No. And there's a difference between that, because I think you can say what you truly think and be very offensive. I think that something like saying, when it comes to men's mental health, women are part of the problem, in that a lot of the women in my life would rather see their man die on top of they'd rather see the white knight die on top of the horse than have him fall off, and are women allowing men the grace to have the conversation about what it means to be a man in the 21st century in a post-Harvey Weinstein era without calling us misogynists. I'm not going to subjugate myself. So that is an offensive thought in different circles, but it's true to what I believe. And so I don't know. I guess I just didn't take my responsibility in what actually I say on my show. I didn't take it as seriously as I should have. And
I don't think I've ever been offended by anything I've heard on your show, but I might have a high bar or low bar.
Well, I mean, I've never been offended, but I just think that some of it was just unnecessary is my only thing.
Right.
But again, my show is dynamically different than We Are Libertarians, and I respect that. And I respect that, there are people out there who enjoy that sort of show. Clearly, that's not my style, and clearly, it's not the style that I want. The style of listener that I want either. So, not that I would, turn any listeners away.
I'm about to curse, but let me point this out. Because I think this is an important distinction for my audience and my subscribers to understand. We're not going to stop talking in the way that you talk with your friends. But I don't think that there are people who are going to miss me talking about porn or someone or me saying the word cunt. I don't think that is going to keep people from the show. I think those moments can be erased, but I think you can still have a conversation that is open and authentic, and that reflects how people talk to each other. But it's not even about the language and the crudeness. It's more about advocating policies from a perspective where people are put first. And really getting down to that. I'm still going to be a constitutional Republican. Sorry, Rodger. I think that
nobody's.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's okay.
Anarchists have a very important point of view. I don't think that you have the monopoly on the word libertarian. I know you think you do, but I don't agree. And
now I've never said that. You're putting words in my mouth. I've never said that. However, I do believe.
Let's hear how big your butt is.
I do believe that a, quote, libertarian who says that they believe in some government force still believes in force. They believe in forcing their will on me. Whether that's just paying for fire services or police services or whatever the extreme minarchists actually believe in. I honestly don't get it. Either way, it's still, they're going to steal money from me to do it, and they're going to use force to do that. And if I refuse to pay, then they're going to send men with guns to my home to take me away. If I refuse to go with them, then they're going to shoot me.
It's Rodger. How will I stop my house from burning down then?
Right.
It's called
threaten you.
There are a million different ways, and that has been answered for decades in libertarian circles.
Sure.
That's what regular people tell me.
Well, but Chris just kind of agreed with you, and that's.
I was being sarcastic for the record.
No, I didn't agree with him at all. I was about to say that I agree with you, Rodger. I think. That's
a first.
No. Like I want people to understand when they listen to this. Like Rodger's right on stuff. Like Rodger and I just have two different political. We don't have two different political philosophies. It's that we have two different approaches. It's that when I wake up and read the news, I can't just go meh. Not like. I love reading the news, and I love applying libertarian principles to the news, and I love how are we going to get from here to where Rodger is. What does it look like to get from here to there? And I don't feel like I can have the luxury of just saying, no, this is what Libertopia will look like. Like, it's just not something that I can do and be interested in. Like, I don't have the desire to just read Libertopia, libertarian utopian ideals only. And so I think that's just the difference. Like, I don't disagree that any government force is anything but stealing. You're 100% right. But how do you sell that to a mass population that is so ingrained with the idea of socialism without realizing it's socialism? How do you reach those people and start to peel them back and bring them on the train? Like, what I really hope is that I am the first stop on this little journey. And then we funnel them to Lions of Liberty and the Johnny Rocket launch pad, and they get a little more indoctrinated. And then they get to the LAVAFlow, and then they end up there. Like, I want people to graduate from We Are Libertarians to eventually the LAVAFlow, because that means that they are more pure than I am. But I don't think that I can craft a show where I'm advocating what Rodger is saying so expressly, because I don't think that that's where new people live. And I think that's the difference. It's not that Rodger and I disagree.
Right.
It's just that we do disagree in that I have a very hard time wrapping my mind around a world where private courts are a thing. Like, that's the one part that I have a hang-up on, Rodger. But
I think we all probably would agree, maybe, hopefully, that that world cannot exist unless or until a vast majority, or maybe even at least a much larger portion of the population, feels strongly in the same way.
Right.
It can't exist in its own, in a bubble, because we live with these other people that believe that things should be the other way, where we all force each other into all these institutions and into paying for all these services and into certain systems of government. It's only when we can actually hit them over the head or ease them into it, one or the other. That's the other thing, is that I don't think there's an approach that necessarily works for everybody. There might be someone who has really ingrained views who might be eased in by a show like We Are Libertarians, and where they're you guys are discussing current events in a broad libertarian sense, and that might work for some people. Other people might listen to the LAVAFlow and just get smacked in the face, and that works for them. So I think the fact that we all have sort of different approaches is kind of the way to go, because there's not a one size fits all sort of method of convincing people of bringing people over.
Well, and the funny thing about it is, of course, I didn't come out of the womb as an anarchist. I mean, I started off as a liberty Republican because that's what my mommy was.
Were fuck you in the neck.
Right. But my mom was a moderate Republican who was, a liberty-leaning Republican, and that's where I started until I ran into Ron Paul in, gosh, I guess it was 95-ish or so when I first started with Ron Paul. And progressed from there. And it's only been the last, several years that I've been an anarchist. So I do understand that there is definitely a progression. There's no question that there's a progression.
Yeah,
my goal is to get people through that progression as quickly as possible. The old saying is, what's the difference between an anarchist and an anarchist? 6 months. For some, it's much longer than that. I mean, for me, it was probably 4 years, 5 years or so before I made that transition, and for others, it's much quicker.
Yeah, I mean,
what really worked for me though to make that transition was I had a friend who we talked about it a lot. She was an anarchist, and I got to the point where I could, so I just said fuck it and had to give up because I couldn't refute the logic.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a libertarian media outlet that is out there talking about current events and saying, all right, let's talk about Harvey Weinstein tonight and the Me Too movement. And in the middle of that conversation, from both the male perspective, the female perspective, and all the perspectives that are encased in those two, in the middle of that saying, the fundamental libertarian principle is that you are no one's property. You are your own property. You are not the property of the government. You are not the property of your boss. You are not the property of a man. You all own yourself. You govern yourself. And as libertarians, we find Harvey Weinstein reprehensible because Harvey Weinstein believes that he owns the body of women. And,
now let's be clear about that. Well, I mean, and of course I haven't followed that at all because frankly, I don't give a fuck. I mean, it means nothing to me, but from what I've heard, and I could be wrong about this, I haven't heard of any allegations of actual rape.
There are some.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then
Rose McGowan straight up claims that she was raped by him, and there are other women who have claimed that maybe not rape in the full rape sense, but there are women that claimed he sort of blocked their way out of the room, and he's much more bigger and imposing than them. He blocked their way out and then would proceed to act inappropriate when they, maybe he wasn't holding them, but I would consider, physically blocking someone's exit, almost the same thing.
Like if you're a woman who's...
At that point, at that point, it is kidnapping. He was using force to keep them in a certain place. And again, I have paid almost zero attention to it. The most I heard about any of it was the little bit of snippet I heard in the We Are Libertarians when Harry talked about it. Because, that is so far off my radar that I don't even give a shit. But from the minor things that I, heard here and there, it didn't seem like there were any rape allegations. So I obviously can't go where I was going with that. However, if there were no rape allegations and he just used his position to, say, hey, I'll give you a job if you have sex with me. Well, is that morally reprehensible? Yeah, probably. But is it a crime? Like Odie, is this a crime?
Should Harvey do time?
Right. And I don't think if that were the only allegation, I don't think that's a crime. It is absolutely morally reprehensible.
That's part of the problem with all this is that all of it gets mixed together with the Me Too thing, where it's like, okay, assault, rape, assault, harassment, and sex for role services, and looking at a woman's ass or like just making a comment about their appearance, all of it is getting lumped into the same exact thing and then being applied to all men, where suddenly you can't even turn your head if a woman's walking down the street, or you're Harvey Weinstein. And I think that's the problem.
Well, and let's be clear. I would absolutely have sex with Tom Woods to be on his show to help my podcast. Just saying.
Even if it didn't help your audience, I think you'd still consent, Rodger.
Oh, maybe.
It's the beard, man. I'm growing a beard.
Tom, one plug.
People love the beard.
One plug. Yep. We're getting into that spicy territory that Chris is trying to veer away from.
Yeah, no,
the gay sex with libertarian podcasters.
Right. So here's the difference, I think, between the libertarian approaches, and this is where I think that sometimes my black and yellow friends become a little scary and intimidating to people who are not that far down the liberty train. It's like the Mary Ruwart thing. Like when Mary Ruwart ran for president in 2008, there was a section of her book where she talked about consent and wondering out loud about the libertarian position on consent and consent laws. And, it gets so easily twisted. And so like, the way that you just kind of phrase things, Rodger, is like, is it a crime? Is it morally wrong? Yes, but blah, 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 because you're looking at it from a very black and white perspective, and whereas I look at it like, there are people who have been through trauma listening to this, and they're women or they're men, and they're going, that feels really insensitive to me, and libertarians are insensitive. And it's because the way that I'm phrasing it is that nobody owns you and you have a right to yourself. As opposed to that, like in the initial
phases,
take
agency away from women if you say a woman was okay. So like a big shot like Harvey Weinstein basically proposes. Let's just lay the scenario out. Hey, if you make out with me, or you make out with me, what is this, high school? If you fuck me,
right?
If we play 7 Minutes in Heaven together, no. If you fuck me, I will give you a role in this movie, just straight up. And the woman decide. I'm not saying this is like what happened in every case. There's a variety of allegations here, some of which include physical force and intimidation, and to me, those are much more a totally different category. But let's just talk about the one thing. If he offers a role and someone takes it, to simply blame that on like the misogyny and the power of the man, that really takes away from the agency of the woman. Like, I think that is anti-feminist, personally, the way from my viewpoint of things, to act like a woman is so powerless that she can't even make that decision, that she can't make the decision that it will benefit my career if I sleep with this person, and I'm willing to make that sacrifice. Well, and I'm not saying that's the right decision, but we definitely have to realize that there are people that make that decision, and it doesn't mean that they were exploited any more than they were exploiting themselves.
The exact same thing can be said for prostitution. Everybody says, women are being exploited and this and that. Not necessarily. I'm sure that there are a huge percentage of prostitutes who do it because it's really good money and they enjoy it.
Brian just had a great rant about this on today's the show that, well, not by the time this drops, it'll be a few days, but on his Electric Liberty Land, because there's a case where a court may possibly legalize prostitution in California, which would then spread to the whole nation, and that would be that. But the idea that women are always being exploited as prostitutes, a lot of the times you could say women are exploiting desperate men who can't get a woman, and they're exploiting them for money. So you could really spin exploitation any way you want it. There's a power play on both sides of things. A woman has a body a man desires, and then the man has the money. So in that case, everybody exploited each other. It's the Mises human action. I mean, they both made the choice.
Exactly.
Well, sure. Let's just ask Chris. Chris, were you exploited with that prostitute?
I have somehow miraculously never been with a prostitute that I paid.
By several attempts.
No,
there was a credit card issue the one time.
She wasn't a prostitute; she was just a whore, right?
Well, I don't want to get into it.
She ended up not charging, so
right.
No, I guess I think where I'm heading and where we have kind of been as a show is that I find what really annoys me in the libertarian media movement is everything is black and white and simplistic. And I think if you listen to Sean Hannity, everything is simplistic. If you listen to, whatever the left version is, if you go read HuffPo, everything is simplistic. They're right, the other side's wrong. And I just don't think there's enough people talking about the complexity of the world. And I think there's a huge segment of the audience that are hungering for people to talk about the gray areas of life in an adult way. And I listened to the Joe Rogan podcast with Jordan Peterson and Brett Weinstein, and it was a mind-bending and intellectual feast for 3 hours talking about the complexities of the world from no viewpoint other than their own, maybe the viewpoint of biology. But I just think that What I really want to impart on the libertarian movement before I die is the courage to talk about things in a more complex way, and in a world where that is often so hard to do because social media makes everything so simplistic, such a binary choice. And I think libertarians have to, if nothing else, represent complexity and gray areas in a compassionate and loving way that people accept. And if you look at the Harvey Weinstein thing and you just say, well, he didn't commit a crime, so it's morally wrong, but he didn't commit a crime, that but is so huge to so many people, and it turns so many people off, and it just is something that I have a really hard time listening to shows, and I'm not trying to call you out, Rodger. I'm just trying to you're just the one that said it. So I don't know if I'm making sense, but to me, I make perfect sense in my head, and the audience that I have built really enjoys that complexity, and I just when I get on when I read people's social media, it's just I don't know, but you guys, you make a post on Facebook and it's just like a Rorschach test. People just read whatever they want.
That is very true.
I don't disagree with that at all. My issue though is, you see things as gray, and I don't. I mean, trust me, okay, there are some things that are gray. There's no question about that.
Right.
However, I think that the base morality of libertarianism, the non-aggression principle, is as black and white as it can be. Either you are committing aggression or fraud against someone, or you're not. And it's that simple. And that's what, what my show focuses on. It focuses on that very black and white, either this is right or this is wrong, period. Right. And I'm not saying that there's no place for the gray, and I think that your show handles that really well. It's just not for me, and it's not for my show.
Rodger, even you get into the gray sometimes, maybe without realizing it. Like when you were talking about the Trump thing and his moves. I mean, that is the gray in a way. That's analyzing two sides of a thing that's not. Obviously, the whole system is fucked. So this is just looking at, how did this tweak things? Is it more liberty, less? And that is kind of looking at the gray.
You're talking about the healthcare changes?
Yeah, and I think you looked at like Rand Paul's thing a few months ago in a similar way. Just like there's some good things that are more liberty and some things that are not. And that, but you're right about the base philosophy, but applying it doesn't always look gray, I guess, on the surface. I mean, I shouldn't say it doesn't look black and white.
But I disagree, because I started off that episode with, Trump is not a libertarian, period. Right. He's not a libertarian. However, that doesn't mean that he can't do libertarian things, just like Obama did, just like Bush did, just like I'm sure every president probably. But it's not. No, Trump is not a libertarian. However, this policy that he has done is libertarian. I mean, those are definitive statements. And I'm not even certain that what he did was libertarian, right. Because it's not.
But the uncertainty is what makes it gray. Is what I'm saying.
But
it's questionable. You can make some arguments either way on certain issues. Like I think there are laws someone can propose that you could. Okay, like I'll give you an example of one that I truly see as gray. Like there was what was it? Damn it. I just had it in my head. Oh yeah, the California marijuana law. Now the California marijuana law that was recently passed, I did vote for it because I weighed some things in my mind. Ultimately, the reason I voted for it is because it would decriminalize further some people that are already incarcerated for marijuana. And to me, if a human's getting out of a cage, even if it's only one, that's a pretty strong point in favor of legislation. So, but at the same time, part of what that legislation does is really highly sort of cartelize the industry in California. So sure. That aspect of it, I think, is bad. But this other aspect where human beings get out of a cage is good. So to me, that is gray. But it's applying it's applying the black and white to a real life situation, in which point we have to sort of weigh things.
So my perspective on why that isn't gray is that while that may be a good law, it's a better law than what exists, which is true. It is not a libertarian law because it cartelizes it taxes it, and all of that. So from a libertarian perspective, it's not gray. It's not
but the
libertarian.
Portion of it that stops keeping people behind bars is libertarian, right?
Because the whole. I guess if you want to go by line, you could say this line of the bill is libertarian, this line.
But you don't
get
to vote line by line,
right? But the bill as a whole is not libertarian. However, there are portions of it that are libertarian. Right. If it means that somebody is not going to have force used against them for smoking a plant, then absolutely that's libertarian. There's no gray area there.
Well, but in the same bill, one person won't for smoking it, while another person will if they sell too much of it.
Then that part of the bill is not libertarian.
Exactly. But the bill in its entirety. That's why I'm saying like the whole thing. When you get an up or down vote, if I vote against it, I could also abstain from voting, I suppose. If I vote against it, to me, I'm keeping someone in jail potentially that is behind bars for a victimless crime. But if I vote for it, I'm potentially jailing someone else who might, be growing a marijuana farm that's not totally licensed by the state. So that's why I can't see how the entirety of it is anything but gray.
That's, of course, assuming that your vote actually matters. But
sure.
We all know that it doesn't. I mean, none of our votes matter, period. The chances of any bill or any person being elected by one vote is infinitesimally small. Our votes do not count. Our votes do not matter. That's why I don't vote. It is. I would rather wash my hair than go vote.
They don't matter in the way you're describing, but they do, unless we just think that they don't count the votes and they do whatever they want, and they just put out vote totals, which is fucking possible. I don't know, but the aggregate does add up to a number. Tell me
one time that you've gone to the poll that your vote actually counted.
What do you mean by counted?
That your vote made a difference.
Was the deciding vote? Like never.
Right. Well, okay, then your vote has never counted. Your vote, your vote has never mattered.
Being the deciding vote is not the only way a vote counts.
I've worked on 2 elections where one election, Scott Keller won in a city council race by 3 votes, and then another one I volunteered for a race where a Republican won by 14 votes, and in the precinct that I worked I had personally helped increase the votes 210, and so I always tease John that I helped him get elected. I mean, your votes count. I mean, it's about power. I guess that's what you're trying to articulate, Rodger, is that power is corrupting the American government and the elective system, the electoral system. It's a perverse incentive system. We should walk away from it, and that's where you're right. It's like, I became a libertarian in 11th grade without realizing I had become a libertarian because Mr. Benj at the head of our class in world history said, you all realize power is an illusion. There's one of me and there's 25 of you, and if you all just decide to stand up and overthrow me and kill me, you get control of the classroom. That is the human story, that power is usually an illusion and it's in the hands of people falsely, and people just accept the power that they have. Like, that's the whole idea of the founders. Like, the founders basically said, here's the first, second through the 10th Amendment, the Constitution. Like, you have the power, and if you lose power, you have the right to overthrow them with the Second Amendment. And that's what I think you're trying to articulate, is that voting isn't really returning power to where it belongs, where it deserves. And I think what a lot of what the Free State Project is about, you guys do engage in electoral politics.
No, not everybody. I mean, that's the thing about the Free State Project.
No, I'm not saying everybody. I'm saying
the Free State Project. The Free State Project is a vehicle. All that vehicle does is try to get 20,000 libertarians to New Hampshire. What those people do when they get here, that's entirely up to them.
Didn't you brag on the last episode about getting a New Hampshire person to become a Libertarian Party person? Like, we have this argument every time. Just admit that you are engaged in politics, and it's fine. It's okay. You can be engaged in politics, Rodger. It's fine. Go ahead, admit it.
I am sadly addicted to politics, just like some people are addicted to heroin. Now, I am slowly working my way out of that addiction because I have been banging my head against the wall of that addiction for over a decade, and I've wasted a decade of my life on that addiction. So, yes, I am still the vice chair of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, only because I promised some friends that I would serve out my term, and I'm going to do my very best to do that. After that, I am completely finished with the political process.
I mean, and I'm in a similar position. This will be my last term on the SCC of the LPIN. I mean, and then I will step away from electoral politics completely. And but I will still vote, and I will still have libertarian candidates on my show, and Republican candidates, and Democratic candidates probably too, if it serves liberty. But I think that power resides there, and there's no reason to walk away from it. Just admit that, like, hey, here's the problem with most libertarians is they're impatient, and they don't realize that this is a long-term proposition. You are not doing liberty right now for you. You are doing liberty to make sure that future generations have liberty, and so you should be engaged in the political process in some way, but you also should be... Hold on, let me finish. You should also be engaged in liberty in the way that the three of us are engaged in liberty in spreading the message on our podcast, or in the way that you are in the Free State Project by trying to opt out of the system by building other systems that work around these traditional power institutions. I mean, it's and building those avenues for future generations to spread that next generation seed.
Explain to me what in the last 40-some-odd years of the Libertarian Party has been a viable party. Explain to me what they have accomplished in this country. And I can tell you in 3 words. Absolutely fucking nothing. They've got nothing accomplished. They've got nothing. I let you talk. Let me talk.
Okay.
They've got nothing accomplished. They've done nothing but waste millions and millions of dollars to now have a brand that most people don't know shit about. And they have wasted the time, energy, and money of thousands and thousands and thousands of activists. We need to be looking at books like The Most Dangerous Superstition by Larkin Rose. That's the issue with this country, is that government is a superstition. The whole power structure is a superstition. These people don't have power over us. We Give them that illusion of power, because it's been ingrained into us since we were 5 years old, going to kindergarten for the first time and having to stand up and pledge allegiance to some fucking piece of cloth. It is ingrained in us from the very beginning, and this is why I'm opting out. I've got my kids completely opted out of school systems. My kids have never once stepped foot in a public school system. They've never once stood and said the Pledge of Allegiance, and I hope to God they never fucking do, because that is what is going to make a difference in this country, when people realize that those people don't have any fucking power any more than we give them. And as long as, when we start opting out and turning our backs on them and saying, fuck you, you don't have power over me anymore, that's when change is going to happen. Not when we keep trying to elect people who we say are libertarians, but they're going to get in office and then they're going to have the power. You cannot have a libertarian society by trying to elect libertarians. It's like trying to fuck for peace. I mean, it's trying to.
Wait, what? You can fuck for peace.
That doesn't make sense. It's like trying to go to. It's like trying to go to war for peace. You can't go to war for fucking peace. Yeah, I screwed that one up. I screwed up the punchline.
Awesome.
Go figure, right? But you can't go to war for peace. You can't fuck for virginity. That's where I was going with that.
Yeah,
there you go.
You can't go to war for virginity. You can't fuck for peace.
Now, Rodger, here's why you're a complete idiot and you're wrong. No,
I'm just gonna turn this show into the Rodger and Chris debate show with some moderators.
Yeah,
I like it.
Sorry, Marc.
No, I'm not. I approve. I'm enjoying this. Go.
So it's not that you're wrong, because you're completely right. Okay, you're right, but you're also telling one part of the story. You're not telling the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say.
That was the first thing that came to my mind. My dad used to listen to that in the car when I was a kid, and I had the most vivid memories of loving. No matter what it was, when he'd always get me at the end, I'd be like, "Oh, that was the rest of the story."
Ah,
there you go.
Good.
I love that.
Good day.
What was that dude's name again?
Paul Harvey.
Paul Harvey. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, he was the man. Look up Paul Harvey, kids. You youngins out there.
Oh, Paul.
There's I bet someone's ripped the best of Paul Harvey to like YouTube or something.
Oh no, there's a podcast feed that his son puts out. Like, Paul Harvey was one of the pioneers of conservative talk radio. Like, very interesting guy. So, anyways, so the Libertarian Party. I mean, if you look at America over the course of the last, let's say, 40 years, all right, you have society changing and liberalizing in many different ways and becoming better and more equitable in a lot of ways. You also have it becoming like, libertarians love to just complain about how awful our current system, like, everything was better in the past and everything sucks now, and it's just all this, like, that's just not true. Like, America is still a free place. The three of us still can have a podcast where we can complain about the government without our doors being burst in. Like, we have the ability to criticize our government completely. We have the right to buy guns. Like, we have a lot of freedom. We need more, and we need to continue to fight for more. That is the human story, is that it is a fight for liberty and freedom. And the Libertarian Party, the untold benefit of the Libertarian Party over the last 40 years is... No, there haven't been a lot of victories, and yes, they have lost. They have wasted a lot of money and people's time, and they have pissed off a lot of people. But I can tell you, and you know this to be true, Rodger, when you work with local candidates, they go out and they talk to people and they interact with people, and those people almost always meet a normal libertarian. They meet somebody that is, for the first time, introducing them to the word libertarian. When people go and vote at the polls, they see the word libertarian for the first time. They are excited about having a third option. You and I are part of that process. That is part of our story. And the untold benefit of libertarian candidates, by the tens of thousands over the course of 40 years, standing next to opponents on the debate stage, at community forums, interacting with them before and after the election, and advocating for libertarian policies, has made America a more libertarian government and society in some ways, in some aspects.
I disagree that the Libertarian Party can take the credit for any of that.
I would say many individuals,
I'm not saying
some of which happen to be in the party, take responsibility.
I'm not even certain that I'm not even certain that I can say that. I mean, no libertarian has ever. Well, okay, very few libertarians.
I mean, you've been in the party, and you're one of them. So I mean, we all influence our neighbors in a way.
Like, Marc, isn't it crazy, Marc, how, like, I say stuff and you hear me clearly, but like Rodger just disagrees with exactly what I just said, even though he's wrong. Like, it's like the Libertarian Party has had a benefit in local communities. And
Okay,
yes,
what-
they
what you-
haven't.
okay,
they
so
have
let-
not
let's
always
be-
won, but there is a benefit. It's completely false and
I didn't
inaccurate.
say they didn't have a benefit,
No,
Chris. You're putting words in my
No,
mouth.
no,
What I
no.
said
You
is that
said they have
you are making the
accomplished.
claim-
No, you are saying that they accomplished absolutely fucking nothing, and that's
No,
just
that is
patently
what
false.
I said was you are giving them credit that they do not deserve. You said that the Libertarian Party has helped to make this country a more libertarian place, and I absolutely vehemently disagree with that. I think there is zero evidence for that because it's not true. Give me the evidence. Show me the data. Show me where a libertarian candidate has been close enough to making a difference in a race to where that candidate then went on to do libertarian things. It is almost non-existent. I have never seen it in my life. There's no evidence of it anywhere. There is no proof of it.
Like, you're the one making. You're demanding that I prove something when you're making the positive claim. Like you prove it. Like I have a different.
You were the one who said the Libertarian Party has had a libertarian effect on this country. You made the claim. I am telling you that's not true, and I want evidence of your claim.
I think if you're looking in the strict
No, Mark. You're saying the Libertarian Party has accomplished nothing, and you're wrong. Like you're just 100%.
I did not say the Libertarian Party has accomplished nothing. What I have said is the Libertarian Party, as far as educating the average person, that's about the only thing that the Libertarian Party could ever do worth the damn. Now, is that a positive effect? It may be for the most part, yes, but there are many other ways and many better ways to educate your neighbor than trying to shove a candidate down their fucking throat, because most people hate politicians. Just look at history. Most people hate politicians. So why would we want to shove our better politician down their throat when they hate politicians anyway? That's a waste of time. There are much better ways to educate your neighbor. Show them. Brett Benner's a perfect example of this. Show them by your actions. Show them, by creating the bus stop seat that Brett Bittner was involved in. That was a great example of showing your neighbors what to do, not shoving a fucking candidate down their throat.
Now, see, Mark.
Educate them.
See, Mark, what he's doing there is talking about an elected libertarian who made a difference in his community.
But that bus stop had nothing to do with his election. His election was to the fucking school board. That had nothing to do with a fucking public transportation bus seat that he was involved in. They had nothing to do with each other. He did that had nothing to do with his campaign or his race.
Like, your own story betrays your entire argument. Like, you are here because of the Libertarian Party, and that is my argument, is that you are a benefit.
No, that is absolute bullshit. I am here because of Ron Paul. I'm here because of Ayn Rand. I'm here because of Murray Rothbard.
Would you or would you not be as staunch of a libertarian stalwart if the Libertarian Party didn't exist and you hadn't spent that time putting forth effort in the Libertarian Party of Arkansas?
I think that my transgression to anarchy would probably have happened much sooner had I not had to waste time trying to make the case for political libertarians, which is an absolute misnomer. Like I said, it's like going to war for peace. Saying a political libertarian, that's like saying a libertarian who uses force. That's exactly what that is. A politician is going to use force, and saying a libertarian politician that's impossible. You can't have a quote libertarian politician.
I guess I just
because
don't.
a politician is going to use force.
I just don't understand.
Who's ever run for office a politician? So
Right.
would you say, like, was Daryl Perry not a libertarian? He ran for office. He was a politician. I mean,
Right.
I think we can use these platforms for all sorts of different things. If you're going to judge it simply by did the election of this libertarian change the world? Fuck no.
By politician, I mean elected politician. If a libertarian is elected,
what if he won the nomination? Would he stop being a libertarian? You mean even if he became president? I mean, that's probably not likely. But if he did, he wouldn't, and his views didn't change, he wouldn't cease to be a libertarian. Maybe he would. I don't know. Maybe Daryl Perry would become a tyrant.
I'm not following your.
Well, you're saying you can't be a libertarian and be a politician. I'm saying I was choosing Daryl Perry because I think I think you're probably closely aligned with his views, and I think you said you supported him when he was running. I could be wrong about that, but I'm just using someone or use yourself. I
supported the election, the education campaign of Daryl Perry for president because I knew that he would never be elected and be an elected politician because it was an impossibility. And
if you thought he'd be elected, you wouldn't have supported him. Probably.
Absolutely not. No question.
Well, that's consistent at least in the framework.
I mean, as far as I'm
I'm bored
concerned,
with that.
anybody who is an elected politician is using force against other people.
Well, okay,
Period.
what if a politician was elected and all they did was repeal laws that used force? I mean, I know that's a dream, but I'm just saying that would that not be libertarian if
They would
that's all
still
that
they would
person
still
did?
be they would still be getting a salary, and that
What if they
salary comes
refuse to
from
take the
taxpayers.
salary? Hey, what if they refuse to take the salary?
I want to put.
When you find this mythical unicorn, let me know.
Like, I'm not saying this person exists or ever will, but it's the reductio ad absurdum. You're making a blanket statement that no libertarian can be a politician. I'm trying to Murray Rothbard you and try to find a case where it could be.
Like, is this what everybody up there believes?
Right, do with Walter Block.
No, watch this. Watch this, Mark. Is this what everybody in New Hampshire believes? And then he's going to get mad at me for saying everybody.
I can't speak for anybody but myself. Right. That's who I speak for.
I love you, Rodger. I wish I want to put you in a laboratory and study you because I don't understand your brain at all. Like it's like,
would you put him there by force or by consent?
Oh, 100% force. I'm going to force Rodger into my lab. I call it a lab, but it's really just a pit I've dug out back. No, I think it is. I'm just arguing like. No, you're not wrong. Like, if Gary Johnson had gotten...
I know I'm not wrong. I'm never wrong.
Right, but you're also not right. But, like, if Gary Johnson got elected president, Gary Johnson would be an even more ineffective president than Donald Trump has been because he had...
And that would be awesome. I love ineffective presidents.
Right, there's good and there's bad to that, though. Like, because this is, like the idea... I'm not one of these people who believes that the entire republic should crumble for the benefit of... it's like we as a society are not going to run into liberty's arms should the society collapse tomorrow, and like we have as a society to instill the kind of values that we talk about as libertarians, the type of values that Rodger is directly preaching, which is self-reliance, and those are
but I disagree. It's not my place to push my values onto anybody else. If people want to go off and live in a socialist compound under full communism in a commune, then that's their business. As long as it's voluntary and that's their thing, I'm not going to push my values onto anybody.
I mean, that's what this whole podcast is. You're pushing your values on me. No,
well, I mean, that's because you're an immoral bastard.
It's okay to go be a commie. It's just not okay to make me be a commie.
Exactly right. But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that like libertarians advocate for societal collapse and government collapse because somehow that's going to make it a more free society. That's not how that's going to work, people. But like what I just get frustrated when libertarians want to shame. Hold on, you want to shame other people's choices. There are people who are listening to this who are involved in the Libertarian Party, who were just told that their efforts are completely a waste of time. And
now that is okay. Again, you're putting words in my mouth that I didn't
not
say.
shaming the people.
But I'm telling you, that's what people hear. But that's the problem. Libertarians don't understand that. Libertarians don't understand that when they say shit, other people may interpret it differently than the way that they say it, and so you should think about how you say stuff so they don't get pissed off at you. Ah!
Do you think I give a fuck who's pissed off at me?
No, I know.
I really don't. I couldn't give two shits what somebody thinks about me as a person. They can take my words for what I've said, and they can either take those words at face value for what I've said, or they can make up a bunch of bullshit about what I didn't say and live in their fantasy world. That's on them. I don't give a shit. It means nothing to me. I live my life for me. But you keep putting words in my mouth. You keep saying that I said that the Libertarian Party is completely useless. As far as an education tool, I can see some benefit to the Libertarian Party. However, I also know from my experience of banging my head against the wall for the Libertarian Party, spending tens of thousands of dollars every 2 years trying to get ballot access, spending thousands more to run candidates, 30, 45 candidates, killing ourselves and getting absolutely nowhere and making zero fucking changes in the state for all of that money and hours and blood, sweat, and tears. It is a waste of time. Period. That's my experience.
Well, and that's why I do a podcast, because it's been way more effective. But I will say, even then,
Absolutely.
when I went on the Chick McGee podcast a couple years ago, and it was to 50,000 non-libertarians. I mean, that appearance in front of, I think it was like 40,000 people heard me. I created more libertarians in that moment than I did as the executive director of the Libertarian Party of Indiana. It's not that you're wrong. It's just that I just want people to...
Of course not. I'm never wrong.
I know you think you're not wrong, but you're also kind of an asshole, and but you're our asshole, Rodger.
Are you just now figuring that out, Chris?
No, I know.
My wife's been telling me that for 11 years.
Oh, poor Jessica. She's such a saint. Can you imagine, Marc? Could you imagine not only you have to stroke that beard, you also have to...
You have to stroke the beard.
She loves stroking the beard.
I got to be honest. I'm growing a beard.
Rodger would not force her to stroke the beard, so I assume any beard stroking is entirely consensual.
Of course.
All right. Well, we should start wrapping this up. This has been a fun episode.
It always is.
It always is a good time. I love Rodger to pieces.
Chris, you were all concerned we didn't have enough topics to talk about. I mean, that's the beauty. We don't need a topic. We got enough going on in our brains to go to run with this thing.
Two of us do anyway.
We don't need a top.
Thanks, Rodger.
I know. Thanks, Marc. Marc and I are.
I'm just assuming.
We don't need a topic. We have a Rodger.
I love you too, Chris. By the way.
All right.
You're just wrong.
All right. I'm not wrong. I'm just.
You're just wrong.
I'm just more advanced.
Everybody tune into the Jason Stapleton program because when Johnny's on, if he doesn't mention the League of Liberty, he's out of it.
Oh.
If he's on that show and doesn't at least get those League of Liberty words out there, I'm just saying. Just kidding. You can never be kicked out of the league. This is a permanent position.
Poor Johnny. Let's not. He's had enough. All right.
I legit want people to hear his show listening to talking about the Liberty Force comic because it's awesome. Everyone should have it.
Final thoughts and shameless self-promotions. Let's start with Marc.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We'll start with Marc. Sorry.
I guess we can start with me, if I must. Not that you guys have had much time to get anything out, but no. Let's see. Where should I go? Shameless self-promotion. I guess in case there's newbies that don't even know who the fuck I am, Lions of Liberty. Check it out. lionsofliberty.com. And, we do 3 shows a week. They're all a bit different. I host interviews on Monday, sometimes fun roundtables like our Halloween special that I'm not even sure when we're going to get this out, but it might have already aired, but it'll be out on Monday, the Monday right before Halloween. And we're going to have, let's just say we're going to have some fun with that one. And then we've got Brian every Wednesday with Electric Liberty Land, always nailing those current events. Like Chris says, I do think it's important to talk about current events in one way or the other, as Rodger does as well. I think we all talk about them, that's for sure. And then Felony Friday, every single Friday with John Oderbat. We try to cover a lot of different topics and a lot of different from a lot of different angles on Lions of Liberty. But you can also, if you're not a member already, we have the Lions of Liberty Pride, and that's our private group through Podbean, and that's been really building up the last 6 months or so. So that's been going very great, and we do a ton of bonus content. I think that's something we've really focused on a lot because mostly because I feel guilty if we don't put a lot out, because I feel like people should get something a lot extra for their $5, $10, $25, whatever bucks a month that they're sending us. So we make sure to get out a couple things every week, and some are bigger shows, longer form shows like this. We do our Conspiracy Corner. We just did a whole thing on the Las Vegas shooting. We pretty much do one of those once a month, and we are just always pumping out random shit. So I do encourage you guys to check that out.
I'm a member.
There you go. Chris is too.
I am too. Yeah.
Nice. So I guess it's my turn. I want to thank all the listeners, and I want to apologize to the listeners for having to sit through 45 minutes of Chris whine about his friends and his show. So sorry, guys.
Such an asshole.
Maybe I'll cut that part out of mine before I post it up. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, I do the LAVAFlow podcast, and if you want to know about, real libertarianism instead of We Are Libertarians, check out the LAVAFlow. But a new one that I'm just doing is called Essential Libertarianism, and basically it's really going into in depth about these topics that I've been talking about today, about removing ourselves from that political process, extricating ourselves from it, because it is such a waste of time, and it is force. I mean, there is force involved in the political process. That podcast is Essential Libertarianism, selected readings from voluntarius.com. It comes out every Wednesday, so definitely check it out. And basically what I'm doing with that is I'm taking some of the content from voluntarius.com, which is basically been a newsletter since the late 70s, early 80s, every month for those 30, 40 years, and has been going strong now as a website by Carl Watner. He gave me the opportunity to use his content, so I am, and it's some really fantastic content. Definitely check it out. And really, yeah, that's it. If you're into Star Wars, check out the Resist the Empire podcast with myself and Brian McQuaid, where we talk libertarianism and Star Wars. It's basically a libertarian view of the Star Wars universe. It's my favorite podcast to do out of all the ones I do. So check it out.
Well, that says something about your other podcasts.
Oh, no, I mean, I love the LAVAFlow. I mean, I live for the LAVAFlow. That's my thing. It's been for, I'm coming up on 3 years now. Boy, that's exciting.
That's awesome.
How long have you been doing yours, Chris?
March.
I believe you said 6 years.
March
earlier, right?
of 2012. So wow. we had our 5th anniversary and 200th episode at a comedy club here in Indy. We're up to 240 at this point. We're doing 2 a week now, and the bonus content sometimes is like another hour on top of that. And it's just. We're putting more and more out because there is so much going on in the world, and I think that so many people don't understand the news. They just see headlines, and then they go, all right, I saw a trans woman hurt a child. What was that? Like, that's outrageous. But then when you read the story, you don't need any more laws. The story isn't what the conservatives are making it out to be. Your Facebook friends are full of shit. Like, we're trying to bring you context to the news that you see on your Facebook feed so you understand what's going on in the world and applying libertarian principles to it. And we do a lot of stuff where you get some of the foundational principles. I mean, and we also have a series called The Cost, where it's the human toll of public policy. Like, we just did an episode with my friend Phyllis where she talked about her interactions with Medicare, and basically she's fighting for her life, not just against cancer, but also against Medicare to stay alive. And so the system that she's paid into her entire life is basically trying to kill her as well. And she kind of just expresses what that's like, what she's going through, and try to bring you a human picture to the end result of actual government policy. So if you are new to We Are Libertarians and you've not checked us out, the episode with Phyllis's story would be a great place for you to start and start listening there. And we'll keep you informed as to what's going on. WeAreLibertarians.com. Thank you so much to everybody for listening. Thank you to all of our donors. We really enjoy doing this, and we really enjoy doing our stuff, and we really enjoy communicating with you. I can personally tell you, and I'm sure these guys can back me up, it is amazing to build a community of like-minded people and to become friends with people across the nation and the world who believe what we believe. And it's when you donate and when you subscribe, we're trying to give you extra, but also give you access to other people who are subscribing, and that's almost the better part of becoming a subscriber, is getting access to those other people and growing a new friends list of people that just agree with you, and it's nice. So I don't know if you guys have seen that, but that's been probably the coolest part of starting the subscription program, is the new friends and the new community that's kind of sprung out of that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, I think we started the Lions of Liberty Forum, the public group, and that was like cool. That grew really fast. Got a lot of people in there. But when we have our more private group, that's just our paid supporters, like that really is a whole nother level of contact. And God, I always think creepy things. It's not that kind of contact. It's a whole other level of communication with people. And you really do get to know, and not just like, you start to get inside jokes even with your fans and each other. And I think that really does build a sense of community that you don't get just from, say, listening to a podcast and moving along. So I'm a member of all of your private groups. So I encourage, I am actually the super fan we've been looking for. I think we've been looking for the one Liberty super fan who's the subscriber to all of our shows. I think we should agree to
your own show. Do you give your own? Well, of course
that's
you give
why
your own
I
show
don't
time
count.
and money. Right.
Damn it!
So,
You're right. That's why I don't count.
We are
I
still
subscribe
looking
to the other three.
We are still looking for that unicorn. So anybody out there who does, give all 4 of our podcast money, let us know, and we will definitely pimp your shit. That's awesome.
I think it's safe to say we'll pimp your shit, and we'll probably all be able to send you at least like one free thing. Like I'll say we'll send a T-shirt or something, and I'm sure Johnny's got a Liberty Force comic he can send. If we find the super fan, if you're out there, we'll
load them up with some swag. I'll even send nudes. I'll even send them some nudes.
Some nudes.
Not of me. I mean, just of some random chick.
Oh, okay. Well, I was about to ask, are the nudes bearded or non-bearded, but.
And if you want to make comments about our podcast, all the guys, if you're in Dear Leader's Court, these guys are on there. So if you want to speak to Rodger about the way that he treated Dear Leader, you are allowed to do that. Thank you for.
If you want to argue about this in any of our private groups, you can do that. And I don't even know what I think it's private. Is it's a public group, private group? I don't even know. We do have a Facebook group for League of Liberty also. So for any of you that enjoy listening to the four of us or three of us today, get into it, so to speak. Then check that out, and you can have a conversation about this show and other related stuff in there.
Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes. All right, boys, it's been a blast. It's been so much fun, and it's time to go. And how do we want to end it? How are we ending this again?
Didn't we have the same conversation last time?
Liberty fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's whatever.
I mean, yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Liberty, whatever. I think
Liberty fuck yeah, whatever. Thank you for joining us.
Come up with something.
And
why don't we make that a contest? Someone come up with our outro, with our phrase.
Yeah, our tagline.
For a prize to be named later.
Until then, we say see you next month.